Welcome again to the Baseball Card Exchange podcast. We're so glad that you're here with us today. We are going to talk about a question that we get all of the time here at Baseball Card Exchange, whether it's at shows or people calling us or people seeing us on the day-to-day. The question is, where do you think the hobby is going? What is changing? What will continue on? And sort of in this episode, we want to address that. And also we'll talk about the evolution of the sports card market and the sports card hobby in the past 50 years. Things have changed a lot. Here with us today is the owner of Baseball Card Exchange, Steve Hart. You've been in this a long time. Mm-hmm. I've been in this pretty much all my life as well. It's a little bit different now.
Oh, yeah. A lot different from when we were kids.
Yeah. So when we were kids, I mean, it was a funny story. You didn't grow up in Crown Point, but pretty close. Mm-hmm. But, close to my house, I grew up close to a fairgrounds, which won't mean much to anyone there. But there was a corner store called Zip Foods. You remember that?
In Schererville, where I live, too.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I remember my mom giving me a couple of dollars. And she wanted one of those rocket popsicles, mm-hmm. The red, white, and blue ones.
Yep.
And Zip Foods had them. So she said, "Hey, you want to go get a popsicle?" I said, "Sure." So I go to Zip Foods, and I think she only gave us a couple dollars, maybe $2 or $3, and maybe the popsicle's 50 cents or 75 cents, and I had 50 cents left over. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget. I bought a pack of cards that was, it was staring at me mm-hmm. at the register. Buy me, buy me, buy me. And I bought it with the extra change there. So when I get back to the house, my mom goes, "Where's the change for those popsicles?" And with my head down, I said, "I bought a pack of cards." Well, she wasn't happy, and she took them from me. And I learned my lesson right there that day. Anyway, collecting has changed since those days.
Oh, yeah. Like you mentioned with Zip Foods, me and my friend would ride our bikes down there and buy a bunch of packs of cards, sit on the stoop right outside the store, jam all the gum into our mouths at once, look through the cards, look through the players, nothing to do with money.
No.
Nope. It was all for fun and the love of the sport we were collecting.
Yeah, 50 cents was nothing in
no
those
inserts,
days.
No autographs, just the cards.
Well, you and I actually did go to a couple of the same card shops growing up, where there's a little bit of age difference, but like John Hodson coins.
Yep.
And this has changed a bit now. It used to be maybe if you were in a different city and you wanted to go to a card shop, you'd look up coin dealers in the yellow pages.
Correct.
And then you'd call the coin shop and say, "Do you have baseball cards?"
They were the original ones to start selling as a business out of a retail place, a coin store.
So how, in your opinion, has it changed since we were kids to what it is today?
Oh, boy, that's a long stretch.
It is.
People ask about where the hobby is going. The hobby will always be here.
Yes.
The hobby, the collectors, will always be around. It doesn't matter the price point. I mean, I hear from collectors all the time, "I wish the value of this stuff would drop, immensely drop, so I could buy it for my collection."
Right.
I can't afford it. They're not worried about, what they're already holding that may drop, but, they will continue to collect no matter what happens to the industry.
Absolutely.
There will always be the hobby.
I 100% agree with this, and we've mentioned this in other episodes. It's the collector that drives the hobby. I guess some of my concerns in the evolution, if you will, of the hobby as it would relate to right now is just the mentality of people rifling through boxes as quick as they possibly can, throwing out 95% of the cards, only keeping an autograph or only keeping...
Especially the younger kids. I remember when I did it, there was no way you were throwing anything away.
No.
If your friend threw it away, you went in the garbage can and pulled it out.
Right.
Now it's, as you're opening the pack, you throw away anything you don't think has value or you want.
Yeah. So, so we can trace that back. I like you, I didn't throw anything away because, baseball cards were not only a collecting, something that you collected, but it was also a source of information. So if you wanted to know what Rob Deere hit in 1988, you could go to a 1989 Topps card and look at his stats for 1988. So many times I'm watching the Cubs growing up and they're playing the Giants. So I rifle through my cards of the previous year to see what their stats were. And
I don't know about you, but I enjoyed the cards that had 25 years on the same team.
oh yeah,
A
yeah.
Brooks Robinson card that had Orioles all the way. It went down so far that the little blurb they said about the player couldn't be included.
Yeah, it wasn't there.
Yep.
It wasn't there. I mean, you almost needed a magnifying glass even
Yes.
as a kid.
Yep.
But these are the days, Steve, where, when we wanted to know the score to the Yankees game the night before, I woke up early and went to the newspaper
And
box.
if it was a late game, you didn't get it.
Yeah, you had to wait
until the afternoon.
Yeah. And I've alluded to this. I was a Mike Schmidt fan. I always wanted to know if Mike Schmidt hit a home run.
Mm-hmm.
So, we didn't have that kind of, I didn't have cable TV growing up. That was way too much for my parents to afford. But we would go to the mailbox, grab the newspaper. I looked to see if Schmidt hit another home run. Oh, man, he did. Awesome. But today, now cards really don't have as many stats on the back.
Or none.
Mm-hmm. And people really aren't interested in the base because it's more of a monetary thing as opposed to a collecting thing in a lot of cases. Now, while those people may come and go in the industry, the stalwart that's always there is the person that still collects even today.
Correct.
And, a lot of times my position for those of you that are just watching this show, the fancy name is Director of Acquisitions that I think my predecessor gave the title to.
Right.
So I'll take that. That's what I write when I'm applying for a home loan.
Before they tell you no.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of that.
Right, exactly. But for the most part, when people talk about what do you do, why do you like what you do, it really goes to the collecting area of it all and the fact that people are collecting, and there's an amount of respect that I give to people that are collectors. And so my job is the buyer. That's really what I do. Mm-hmm. I go around, and you'll know this as well. You can walk into a home, mm-hmm. and you can see maybe it's an elderly gentleman, mm-hmm. and he has everything outlined, in binder, in alphabetical order, by year.
Yep.
And a lot of times I'll know immediately, this deal is worth $20,000, but this guy has hours upon hours upon hours of time invested in this. Mm-hmm. And many times I'm going to say, sir or ma'am, I could never pay you mm-hmm. for the time that you have invested in this. And I've said this to many people.
Yeah.
But I can give you a very fair price. And many times they'll say, you know what? I understand. Mm-hmm. But I had so much joy and so much fun in collecting that I understand. Do you see that type of collecting still today?
Not as much.
Yeah.
Yep, not as much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Going back to how you say you go into a home
mm-hmm.
of an elderly gentleman who spent years collecting and enjoying it. Our friend and my previous employee, Reed, had always had a saying, sometimes you'd go into a home and sometimes you just can't buy sentiment.
Right.
No matter what you offer, they
Exactly.
think about it, and they say your price is fair and fine. My children don't want it, so that's why I even called you here, but I just can't do it.
Yep.
In which case, we can't buy sentiment.
Right.
So,
and obviously, we're in it for a business, and sometimes that's disappointing. But at the root of it all, we completely understand.
oh yeah, yep.
We completely understand.
Or it has more value to me than what you're offering.
Correct.
I know you need to make a few bucks, and I think your offer is fair,
mm-hmm.
but I would rather just keep enjoying it.
In the early 90s, well, not even the early 90s, rather mid-90s, late 90s, I really understood that, this hobby is going to change considerably.
Correct.
For you, it was probably perhaps DealerNet. Could have been
Could
one.
have been, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
could have been one of the areas. For
mm-hmm.
me, because I wasn't really into unopened, it was eBay.
Okay.
When I realized you could start, searching and finding cards that you had always looked for at shows, but now you could actually find them on eBay.
Yep.
And not only that, a lot of times back in the day, if we were setting up at a card show or at the card shop, you're always trying to accumulate local teams.
Yes.
And so, it was kind of hard to sell
You couldn't sell your Tony Gwynn cards here in Chicago.
Right.
But on eBay, you could.
Exactly.
And then meet people you could trade for Cubs.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, you might, at that time in the 90s, be giving a discount for a decent Tony Gwynn card or a decent Mike Schmidt card because it's very hard to sell here at this location. But now, when eBay came along, you could get fair market value and sometimes perhaps even more than you would ever get in your local card shop. And so I realized, wow, this is going to change the game. Now, fast forward to, the 2010s to now the 2020s. Another dynamic is you don't even have to go to a card shop to buy a pack of cards.
Oh, no. You could have it opened for you right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
500 miles away from you.
Yeah. I'll tell this quick little story. First time I met Steve, I'm working at a radio station at the time and had a lunch break, and I wanted to go open a box of cards. And it was a Upper Deck Decades box. And there was
possible autographs.
Yeah. And American Pie. Remember that? Topps
Yep.
American Pie? They had like the Elvis relics and the JFK wall thing. So anyway, I call a card shop that was in Munster, I believe, or Lansing at the time.
Illinois, yep.
Yeah, and so as you guys. Me and Steve had never met. To get there and back as soon as possible, I had to leave immediately for lunch so I could get back within an hour. So I leave. I go to the shop. I had already called the shop. They had what I wanted in. I go there, and I don't have my wallet with me. And I'm like, oh, crap. I really wanted to open this at lunch. Oh, well. And I felt kind of embarrassed because I think Steve or one of the employees had got up to help me. And I said, I'll take one of them boxes. And then I did the whole, patch your pants thing. I said, sorry, I didn't bring this. I didn't bring my wallet with me. And Steve said, that's okay. Take it.
And just come back tomorrow.
And I'm like, this guy doesn't even know who I am. He said, just take it. And come back tomorrow and bring me money then. Well, I actually came back that night because I was so impressed that he would allow me to do that and didn't want him to ever worry. So I brought the money back after work. But that was so cool of you, number one. And number two, it's not like that now. I mean, if I have an inkling to open a new 2024 Topps update box, I can just get on the Fanatics Live site.
In fact, our company is on there breaking boxes day and night. Yep.
Exactly. What do you see in the shift of the hobby? Do you think it's a positive? Do you think it's a negative? Do you think it's indifferent? What are your thoughts on sort of the evolution of the hobby today?
Obviously, I'm a little of both. The one thing that is disappointing is the price points.
Yeah.
It's really, a lot of people can't get in.
Right.
Buying a box like we used to and enjoying that. Buying packs, even the price point. And then the return value on that price point.
Right.
Could a lot of times be an absolute disaster. The good parts of the hobby going forward is, like you said, networking.
Right.
Meeting people. Being able to sell your cards you can't sell anywhere else. Being able to buy cards you couldn't buy anywhere else. Meeting people.
Yes.
So networking and social media, that's a plus for the hobby.
A lot of our customers, our loyal customers that have been with us for, as long as you've been open, essentially, they have a lot of gratitude towards the company and a lot of good feelings towards the company because a box you sold them in the 80s for $100 is worth $1,000 now. And so there's been this increase in price. And I know something that you've thought about, that we've thought about here at Baseball Card Exchange is with the price point that some of the newer product comes in at right after release is $500, $600, $1,000 a box.
One pack in it.
Yeah, and you've got people coming in, and there's this major letdown.
Correct.
If they don't get something that's
bad taste in their mouth, they may be done.
Yeah, and that's
hobby right away.
That's something that we've talked about. Is this can you continue to sell these type of high price box to customers and them not get anything?
Yeah, the risk.
Yeah, and what kind of taste does that leave in their mouth about Baseball Card Exchange? So it's something that we've thought about, and there is some concern there. So
yeah. I'm not in the retail part of the business anymore. Like you said, we've moved it down the street, but
right.
I hear about people who are highly disappointed and with what they get, and they don't see them again.
Right.
It doesn't happen often, but they'll say, I know it's not you guys, no problem, but this, the price point, my return, it just, it's not enough anymore.
So at the same time, we obviously want the customer to get a decent return on their, purchase. But I mean, this has not really diminished the demand all that much.
No, the best part is when, Billy down at the store takes a picture of a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Who hit the lottery ticket card.
Right.
And who loves it.
Right.
Or even if it's his favorite player and it's not that valuable.
Yeah.
how happy they are.
You know, it's. I mean, I don't think this is an official name. It's kind of what I've always said about it in my mind. It's kind of the Willy Wonka golden ticket deal. You know,
I still say legal gambling.
yeah, right. You know, as a kid, we really didn't have that opportunity. You know, if we bought a pack of cards, we might get a $1 card in there.
Yeah,
we might get a $2
We
card.
got a Dwight Gooden rookie.
Yeah.
Worth $3, and that was
Right.
the chase.
Yeah,
And if it was centered 90-10, it didn't matter.
exactly.
Still got the Gooden.
Right, and that was the big, you know, hit, if you will. You remember hoops, basketball? They had the Magic's all-rookie team in
Yes.
92, 93.
Shaq, Morning, Leitner.
Shaq was worth quite a bit. You know, that was like you could buy a box for $30, $40.
Yes.
And you could pull the Shaq, and that was worth double
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
what the box was worth. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
unbelievable. And, you know, beam teams in 92, 93. And in baseball, there was the Donruss Elite. So, yeah, you know, that was the beginning, those boxes and products where you could actually pull a card that was worth 2 to 3 times the box value.
Yes. The risk reward was a little bit more fair.
Exactly.
Yep.
But, you know, it was like you weren't paying a super premium for those boxes either.
Correct.
You know, a 1990 Topps baseball box at that same time was what, 50 cents a pack, so $18 retail, and maybe if you went to another store, they might give you $2 or $3 off, make it 15. And then the 92, 93 hoops, I remember buying for $30 a box.
If you were lucky enough to get Stadium Club at the store,
Oh yeah.
know.
See, now that was just a little more expensive than I could afford at that time.
it was better that if you bought it at a retail store and not have to go to a show or a shop where then it was extremely marked up.
Exactly. So, you know, the price points now, $500 a box, $1,000 a box. And now I think people need to understand, too, the challenges of hobby stores getting product. Product is now limited
Right. Yep.
for us to get, or any hobby store for that matter. And our price point changes quite a bit. You know, I remember going into a store, you know, in the early 2000s. And matter of fact, 2000, when Griffey Jr. was traded from the Mariners to the Reds.
Okay.
And buying a couple boxes of the new upper deck that came out because Griffey was going to be in a Reds uniform. And I remember the owner of the store saying, they may go up because next time I buy them, I have to buy them on the secondary market.
Right. Yep.
So things have even changed for hobby stores now, where its supply is very limited for products like Bowman or
Correct. Yep.
any of the really highly sought after.
Yeah, you get your original allocation, and sometimes it isn't much. Sometimes it's dropped from the last time you got it. And once you sell through it, now sometimes you got to go look for it secondary market, dealer net, and it could be quite considerably more.
And a lot, for the last few years now, with say Bowman baseball and Prism basketball, you can legitimately buy one of these boxes though and have a 6-figure card pulled
Yes.
from one of these packs.
Yes, I keep talking about risk reward.
Yeah.
The risk is very tough sometimes. Like I said, legalized gambling. Sometimes the reward is 6 figures.
6 figures.
Some of these Mahomes 1 of 5 patch autographs. It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
Yep.
So the state of the hobby in relation to unopened product, I guess we still call it unopened wax because
Even though it's all plastic.
because we're
and-
dinosaurs, but unopened product. Do you see an increase in value like you've seen it with the unopened wax from the 80s, 70s, 90s over time?
Only if someone major comes out of the product.
Okay.
A major player's rookie. And it really takes a lot now to be a major player's rookie.
Right.
Shohei, that really increases the value. But then you get to the lower level superstar. Sometimes it doesn't make a change.
Right.
So today, a major superstar makes the change. Anything less than that really doesn't, affect the price of the box that much.
One thing that I'm often asked at shows, somebody will come up with a box of, let's say 2020 football, because that was super hot with a lot of quarterback rookies.
Right,
And,
yep.
that people thought were going to do good. And in 2021, I was offered a lot of the 2020 football at shows, and the selling point to the seller was, hey, look, there's 4 rookies. This is going to go up. That this is going to do this. It's going to do that. Well, 2020, I think, is going to turn into a lot like what 2006 football was as well. You know, Reggie Bush
Yes,
rookie.
yes.
This is the Matt Leinart quarterback. This is the
Well,
best.
let's think about every year there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks lately in the first round.
Yes.
That everybody says one of them could, be a superstar. 2 of them could be. Let's go back to the year 2000.
Oh yeah,
Okay, we have the greatest, Brady. Following year, we have Breeze.
yeah,
Then you got to jump to 04 to get the Roethlisberger
Correct.
and Manning. And they are not highly collectible and valuable.
right,
05, Aaron Rodgers.
right.
Then when do you have to go to get to the next one?
Is that Russell Wilson? 12.
And he really has kind of gone to the wayside. And then you got to go to Mahomes.
Yeah,
So,
17.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
saying that there's 5 great quarterbacks in a product doesn't really mean anything.
No, and it's funny you start off with Brady.
Yep.
But, Brady was such a low draft pick that he wasn't even in Topps products.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Bowman product,
Right. Yep.
but not Topps issue or Topps Chrome that year. And then he was in like the Donruss and the Leaf and the Paramount and,
Right.
and Pacific. But he was not in a Topps product for that particular year. And what I noticed is Topps, especially during COVID, Topps Chrome football made this huge spike where it was selling like $500, and people were buying that thinking Brady was in there.
Yes. Yep.
But Brady was not in
Urlacher
there.
was your best shot.
Yeah. So, it's very important. One thing that we don't do here, and I think this is why I brought that up, is we're very careful about buying with speculation in mind. We don't speculate too
No,
much.
I've never really done that myself. Like I said, you speculate, and if you correctly speculate, sometimes it still doesn't matter,
Right.
unless you become a show high or somebody that is a major Mahomes.
Right.
There's people that have speculated in Andrew Luck
Right.
and guys who have had good careers, but they're yesterday's news, and nobody really cares anymore.
And what I've noticed too about the modern card collecting and the way that this is kind of going, let's take for instance a guy like Mookie Betts or a guy like Freddie Freeman. There isn't just a ton of like Freddie Freeman collectors out there, but we're kind of dating this episode. We are broadcasting or recording this a day after Freddie Freeman hit the walk-off grand slam in the 2024
Right, Game 1.
Game 1 World Series. And Freddie Freeman, I looked up his stats, over 300 home runs. He's 34 or 35 years old. Career 300 average, like a 379 OBP. I mean, these are Hall of Fame numbers.
Yes.
But this guy does not have a great
But
fan collection.
the interest is in Dominguez from the Yankees,
Yeah, exactly.
who has yet to put up 10 home runs in his career.
Yes, exactly.
And if he spends another year in the minors, he'll most likely be yesterday's news.
Correct.
And then it'll be the next guy.
But so let's say, Freddie hits this home run yesterday, and let's say he has just a great World Series. Maybe he even wins the World Series MVP. We'll see a spike in his rookies
For a
until
while. Yep.
right until we don't. Until they're like, yesterday's news.
Yep.
And so that's somewhat kind of a new thing. That's not how it was in the 80s, 70s, 60s. Things were pretty steady for the most part.
Right.
And people weren't sort of fly by night with, what are you doing for me lately?
Yes. And speculation.
Yes.
Yep.
So we move. Go ahead.
There was speculation, I remember, it began in 84, 85, 86, where you would buy 500 Oral Hershiser rookies.
Yeah.
500 Eric Davis, 300 Ken Phelps, 200 Gooden rookies.
Right.
And, we look back now, and it only panned out. Clemens, Puckett, McGuire, and all those other ones you bought basically are firewood.
Every once in a while, we'll hear of 100 card rookie lot that somebody has of Puckett, of Clemens, or McGuire, and we're very interested in those because if we can get a PSA 10, then
Well, even a 100 count lot of 84 tops Ricky Hendersons
right.
doesn't have much value if they're but centered nice ones, yes, they're
Correct.
in demand. Yep.
So let's talk about Ohtani.
Okay.
Ohtani, lots of speculation with him. He is the Babe Ruth of today. He was coming in. He can throw. He can hit. And so when he was a rookie, very popular. The 2018 product, very popular. Wasn't commanding outrageously high prices. So Ohtani rookie's worth a lot. He plays a year, does pretty decent. Plays the next year, does better than decent. Gets hurt. His cards tank. I mean, in so much that at that particular time, like if we were offered an Ohtani collection here at the store, we really wouldn't have been interested in it.
No, oh no.
I mean, nobody was buying him. My son and I went to a show at a mall. I think it was close to COVID time. You know, Ohtani's hurt. And my son had a few $100. And I'm like, hey, you know, why don't you try this Ohtani guy? He had good numbers before he got hurt. He's going to come back. If he comes back, you know, hits a little bit, you'll do all right. So he bought about 10 to 15 rookies for $5 a piece. And some of them were numbered. Some of them were decent. Well, he actually ended up buying a couple autographs too. Well, he crushed on them.
Yes.
And now 18 product is way up. So we really live in a time period where speculation and what have you done lately is really running the hobby. And then not only that, you know, what is also different from when we were kids is the serial numbered cards.
Correct. Yes.
You know, the one of ones, the superfractors, as they call them. And the other side to that is it sort of limits what people that collect, say, specific players
can afford and find.
Right.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, they may be able to collect all the out of 299s, out of 199s, out of 99s. Then you get to the out of 25, 10, 5, and superfractors, and they just can't continue collecting that player.
Collecting's always going to be here. I think the hobby's always going to be here. But I think we're in the process of the hobby sort of redefining itself a little bit. And it may not be for everyone.
Right. Yep.
But there is no doubt that
the hobby will continue.
The hobby will continue. And there's no doubt that many people have been added to the hobby over the course of the last 5 to 10 years.
COVID brought a lot of people back into it too. Bored at home.
Yeah.
Pulled out the old collection, got back into it. But let me bring up a good Ohtani story for you.
Okay.
I believe maybe 2017 was when I first started hearing about him. Maybe some of my customers said, hey, there's this guy over there in Japan, and he can pitch and hit. And he's a superstar at both. You know, this is a good investment. My response was, he won't do that here. That won't happen in the USA, in our league.
Right.
Nobody can pitch and hit here successfully.
Yeah.
Man, was I wrong.
I know. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, this guy isn't
nobody had ever done that.
No.
We grew up in the 70s and 80s, and a good hitting pitcher had 6 home runs and hit 240.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen.
Absolutely.
You know, some guys have 50 career homers, you know, pitchers. And now this guy hit 50 this year.
This guy's
50 plus.
And stole 60-plus bases.
Yes.
This guy's just not an elite hitter. He's an elite pitcher
Yes.
when he's healthy.
And the collecting covers the whole world.
Yes, absolutely. So you have that Japanese base they're collecting Ohtani. And
Crazy about him. Crazy in love with him.
Yeah, and he seems like a wonderful human. And matter of fact, you're really starting to see more of his personality. He's doing more ads and marketing for like New Balance. I've seen some commercials, and he's smiling, and he hit even last night. We were talking about the World Series. You see a lot of his personality coming out. His love for the game and his just excitement.
We were at a White Sox game, and he was warming up in the outfield, not using the bullpen for some reason. Maybe it was long toss. And he was throwing it to a guy against the chain link fence at the Sox game. And if you know anything about the park, you can sit behind the chain link fence during the game. And there was a younger kid watching Shohei play catch with this guy. And Shohei purposely threw one right at him at the chain link fence above his head. You know, he didn't want to have his fingers or anything.
Right.
Kid jumped 5 foot backwards. And Shohei looked and laughed and laughed and laughed, and then went over there and signed a ball for the kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
You know, and the other thing too that I've seen, that I go to spring training every year. We love getting autographs, meeting players, and sort of hanging out. I went to the Angels spring training a couple different times, and at that point it was a zoo because Mike Trout and Ohtani, which Mike Trout was considered the best player in the game, and then Ohtani was there. But if you would go to an Angels spring training, just a normal workout day, he would have reporters
Oh,
50
yes,
to
yes.
100 deep
Yes.
every single day.
Yes.
So this guy has lived under the microscope, and he has competed and played absolutely tremendously. He's a one of one. But again, what have you done for me lately? Say he gets injured or something happens to him, will his market fall?
Right,
You know,
yep.
he should be the safest investment.
Even if he never pitches again.
Correct.
You know, if his elbow never comes back to normal after the surgery, it shouldn't matter.
Right, exactly. To me, and I mean, maybe people will put some bad comments. I think he's a Hall of Famer already.
Oh, I think, and people have considered this, maybe you shouldn't pitch anymore.
True.
Maybe you should play 162 games at the plate. Because, when he pitches, he doesn't get that many appearances.
Right.
He takes a day off here and there, the day after a workload. Mm-hmm. Maybe he should just keep hitting 50-50.
Yeah. And so, again, we mentioned Mike Trout. Yeah, Mike Trout, unfortunately, has been dealing with injuries for the last 3, 4 years, 5 years. And at one point in the past 5 years, he was the hottest baseball player.
Before the injury started, compared with the greatest.
And you look at like 2011 Topps Update Baseball. You look at the 2012 minor league stuff, the 2011 minor league stuff, and he's in, I think, 2000, is it 10 Bowman?
I believe so.
Yeah.
2009 Bowman draft.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And all of these products, and since that time of him being injured, they've went down quite a bit. So while I think Shohei should be the best investment, the 2018 stuff, hopefully he can stay healthy.
Yep. Oh yeah. As long as he stays healthy, he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day.
So sort of to sum things up, the hobby's always going to be here.
Yep.
Collecting's always going to be here.
Yep.
I think we are in a process of redefining what the hobby is and what that looks like. And it may appeal to some, it may not appeal to others, but there's something for everybody. So I hope you enjoy this show today on the future of the hobby. It's always going to be here. It's always going to be fun. And it's always nice to see more people that have come into the hobby as of late. Well, if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to contact us here at Baseball Card Exchange. Thank you for taking a look at the Baseball Card Exchange podcast. Until next time, we'll see you soon.